Hello, hello, hello. What's going on, everyone? Hope you guys are having a good start to the weekend. Just wanted to check back in on the MJ space and just cover it really quickly. Going to cover a few more names than what I usually do since it's the weekend. I have a little bit of free time, so just wanted to cover a few more names. Had a couple of requests as well, so we'll get into those and see what we can expect for the upcoming week and what to look for. So today we'll be covering weed, Aphria, Aurora Cannabis, Green Organic Dutchman, OGI, and Hexo. So let's get started and see what's going on with Canopy Growth. So we mentioned in our last video, and actually the video prior to that, that we are still looking to form our daily higher low in comparison to 4180 if we want to maintain our bullish trend. So that scenario has not changed yet. We had two bearish days in a row and two gap down opens in a row. So that's obviously a little telling. And on this day, on Friday, we had bearish momentum, and it essentially gave us a Marabuzu candlestick that is showing us a ton of selling pressure. And before I get into the technicals, I wanted to also give your attention to this as well. So I was on Twitter, and I don't really do a lot of tweeting, or I don't even have a Twitter account really, but in particular to this this channel. But something that I saw that was really telling and interesting to note was that S3 Analytics, a research company that produces reports on the sectors in the markets, has put a report saying that cannabis shorts have added 1.4 billion of exposure since mid-year. And short interest now is at 3.35 billion in the 141 securities, stocks, equities, whatever you want to call them, that they track. And 94% of that short interest is in the following stocks. So CGC, ACB, Tilray, an American company that's, I believe, GP Pharmaceuticals, I believe, or GW Pharmaceuticals, Kronos Group, Aphria, Green Organic Dutchman, which is obviously something that's quite telling of the sentiment of the current market state. A lot of people would, a lot of investors would say, when you have a lot of high interest, short selling, high short interest stock, it's in the market. Typically, you want to approach it with caution, but you don't necessarily want to avoid it either, because at the end of the day, short sellers, like all investors, people, they aren't perfect, so they've been known to be wrong. And in fact, many investors, on the contrary, use the short interest as a tool to determine really the direction of the market. Because like the rationale is that if everyone is selling, then the stock is already at its low and can only move up. So thus, they feel that a high short interest ratio is going to be bullish, because eventually there's going to be some upward pressure, significant upward pressure on the stock's price, right? Because sellers are going to obviously want to cover the short positions. So you can look at it either way, again, with the sentiment either being bearish or the sentiment being bullish. Just depends on what side you're on. So getting back to the technical analysis portion of it, as I mentioned, we had the two bearish days on Thursday and Friday, with Friday being basically completely all red. This is a Marabuzu candlestick that shows a lot of selling pressure. So similar to what we talked about in our prior videos, we'll be looking for a higher low to be set in comparison to 4180. And then to eventually reverse and bounce and look for either a daily lower high to be set or a higher high break to indicate that this trend is going to reverse or not. If we want to look at some quick short-term levels, you can quickly see, even before I even break down the short-term levels, is that the 2 days back-to-back, like I said, we had the gap down opens, we found our low, bounced, and then essentially broke down. And similar story, we gapped down, found our low, bounced, and essentially broke down. And now we're essentially looking to find support to set that daily high or low. So we have a short-term level at 51.15 as the next major level of support to watch out for. So a break of this first thing Monday will indicate toward more downwards pressure, depending on, of course, the volume and any news or any of that kind of stuff going on. And then for a short-term level to the upside, we'll be looking at 53.71. And you can also use the low here at 55.27 as another level, and you can see even that there's a gap, right? So eventually when gaps do happen, they typically want to get filled. So depending on when this bounce occurs or not will give us an indicator if these gaps are going to be filled or not either. As far as more downside support levels, the next major support level that I can spot out is 46.89. So we have $51.15. Of course, $50 psychologically as a nice round number. 46.89 is your next support, and then to the upside we have 53.71, 55.27, and then we'll just provide those as the quick next levels of support. So looking at Aphria, and again, a lot of these names are going to be similar, especially, you know, the bigger names, because they, as I mentioned in previous videos, they all correlate. So again, similar to weed, we found our low on October 30th of 12.37. We bounced to set our new high at 17.60, and now we're looking to do the same thing of setting a daily higher low in comparison to 12.37. And the distance between, you know, the daily high or low that we want to be setting will need to be, you know, somewhere hopefully around 50% of this entire spread to look for a quick short-term bounce to either set again our daily lower high or a quick break of higher high to indicate our trend. Now when we look at it on the weekly, weekly also is very telling, because it's showing us that we're in a range, right? So right now we have the range low of 12.37 and the high of 17.60. And then obviously if any news comes out, any big catalyst, anything like that, that could again change this, and we can essentially break this first thing next week. But if not, the more likely scenario is that we'll need to set again a daily high or low in comparison to 12.37 on the weekly chart, with a break of 17.60 on the upside if we want to set that higher high and eventually reverse this trend. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. It will most likely play out over a few weeks or possibly even months. So if we want to look at quick short-term levels to see what we can anticipate in the coming week, again, very similar to the other names. We had gap down opens on Thursday and Friday. We found a low here at 15.60, and this is actually a lower low at, let me see what this one's at, 15.60, yeah, and this is at 15.56. So this would be a lower low break. We did have some bullish momentum, so it did hold support. So again, we'll be looking to see if we'll be able to break the high set on Friday of 16.72 as our next resistance level, and then 17.60. And in comparison to weed, this one is looking a little bit more bullish in terms of a possible break of this high of 17.60 in comparison to what we saw, and we were looking like it's going to break down a bit more. So again, next levels of support, 15.60, and then we have next clear support at 14.65, resistance at 16.72, and at 17.60 as the next levels to watch out for. Looking at ACB. So again, similar story as all the other names. set our low at 17.25, set our high at 10. Oh, what's wrong with my thing here? Alrighty. So set our high at 10.65, and then essentially similar situation as all the other names. We'll be looking to form that daily high or low in comparison to 17.25 if we want to maintain this bullish trend, and continue our way to the upside. So again, as quick short-term levels are concerned, let's quickly look at the 1 hour. So again, and this is what I mean when I say that a lot of these names correlate big time, right? Because you can see both days, Thursday and Friday, have both been gap down opens. The only difference with this in comparison to what we saw in Aphria is that when we set our low at 9.98 on Thursday, we continue to create even new lows, right? And even here at 9.87. So this is looking a little bit more bearish, right? And that was going to give you an indicator, at least what was going to happen on the following day and Friday. And then again, we had another gap down open before we found support at 19.23. We had the short-term bounce to find our lower high at 9.72. And we've created a higher low at 9.36. And again, we'll either be looking to form another lower high in comparison to 9.72, and we're getting in this tightening range that will essentially give us a heads up on which direction this movement is going to go. And of course, a volume climax in either direction is going to give us an indication on the potential trend. So as far as short-term and support levels and resistance are concerned, we're looking at 9.72, 9.98, $10. You can say $10 psychologically, and 10.65 is the next levels to watch out for. As far as support is concerned, we have support at 9.36, 9.23, the low set on Friday, and then the next clear support that I'm seeing will be at 8.63 as our next major support level. You can also put in support at 8.84 as well as another level to watch out for. Excuse me there. So again, like all the other names, Green Organic Dutchman, TGOD, we found our low on November 2nd. So obviously this was a little bit more of a lagger play. Most of the lows set on weed, Aphria, and ACB were set on the 30th. You can see here when we go to the daily, set on the 30th. Aphria set on the 30th. And ACB set on the 30th. So this is not a surprise. These names really do follow each other and they correlate big time. Price ranges may be maybe different, price levels, all that kind of stuff, may be different, but essentially these are correlating almost candlestick for candlestick in the sense of, the movement in directions that they're going either up or down. So as far as TGOD is concerned, because TGOD is technically a smaller cap name, this typically is a laggard play, right? So as far as the low, we found actually our low on November 2nd at 245 before we set our new high at 498. And then now we're essentially looking to form a daily high or low in comparison to 245, and then bounce, set either a daily lower high in comparison to 498 or a break of 498 to set our higher high and potentially reverse this trend. Now, one thing to note as well, when we found our low here on the 1st of November, when we found our first low of 283, you can see that the RSI levels were completely oversold, and a bounce was imminent. It just depended on when, and then you can see that the following day, and this is why I always mention in most of my videos that volume is a really telling sign on if we're gonna have a nice bounce, a break, etc., etc. If we need to break a key resistance level or go towards the downside, volume is going to be a very helpful indicator to give you that indication on what's going to happen. And you can see that on the second, we had huge amount of momentum. 21 million shares traded, about $4 million in value. So quite a bit of money going into here, and we essentially had a bounce of 38%, and you can see that at the top there, at the top right beside the ticker name. You can see we went from a low of 245 to a high of 37 for an increase of 38%. So huge move. And then the following day we had another 30%. So basically 60% move in a span of two days, which is crazy. And you can see also the volume, another $5 million traded. So basically 10 million in 2 days, and that's what happens when these stocks aren't very liquid, like the bigger names like Canopy and stuff like that. Any amount of volume and significant dollar volume is going to definitely, going to give you a lot of significant movement either to the downside or the upside. So back to the technicals. So like I said, we'll be looking to form a daily high or low in comparison to 245. And then as far as the weekly is concerned, and similar to what we saw in the other names, we're in a range now. Our range seems to be set for now, 245 and 498 being our high. So again, similar to what we saw on the daily, we'll want to set a daily high or low in comparison to 245, and potentially I can see this tightening up for at least a few weeks, because this is looking a lot more bearish than some of the other names. So I can see this, going well in towards the end of the year and possibly even the beginning of the year of 2019 to stay within this range. Unless, of course, we have any huge catalyst news, anything like that, then we can obviously jump out of this range and then continue back to the upside. So as far as short-term levels are concerned and what to look out for, so we had our low set on the 7th here at 401, so you can say that $4 psychologically, and you can see that we've been setting a series of lower highs and lower lows, which indicates a lot of bearish momentum. So as far as this is concerned, a break of $4 psychologically, and we could be heading more towards the downside, to again look for our new bottom to set that daily high or low. And then as far as resistance is concerned, we have resistance at 460 and next level at 498 as our next levels to watch out for. You can also say we have resistance at, let me see, shorter time frames here. And you can say also we have resistance at 437 and then 418. So if you want to look back at the hourly, so again, resistance levels 498, 460, 437, 418. Want to give you a bit more there to give you an idea of what could potentially happen with this move if we do break to the upside. And one thing I didn't actually see really quickly is that we formed an hourly inside bar. So the good thing about inside bars is that there's really good indicators to tell you, the direction of the movement. So essentially a break of this inside bar low of 405 will, with volume behind it, will head further towards the downside, and then more volume towards the upside, and breaking the high of 415 will give us more bullish momentum to head back towards the upside. So as far as support is concerned, again, support at $4 psychologically. We'll have to look at the shorter time frames to find other support levels. So we'll also have support at 340 as the next really clear level of support. And you can also say 387 as another level of support to essentially watch out for. So OGI, won't dig deeper into a lot of these, the next two names here, but essentially similar situation as all the other names. Again, we're looking to set that daily high or low. We found our low at 498, our high at 678. When we look at it on the weekly, like the other names, our range is in. We had a double bottom here with a reverse, but we have a reversal candlestick here that shows a lot of selling pressure. So you can potentially anticipate on the following week that we'll need to set again that daily high or low in comparison to 498. and potentially stay within this range for a little bit before we do see a big break towards the upside. And of course, again, like all the other names, any major news, catalyst, anything like that will head us towards the upside. So as far as hourly ranges are concerned and what to look for in terms of support and resistance levels, we have support at 569 as the next level of support, 498 again as the next level as well, and then we'll want to also look at 543 as another level of support. As far as resistance is concerned, we'll have the high set on Friday at $6.01, and then also 634 and 6678 as the next resistance levels. And one thing to note with OGI or Organigram is that we do have an RSI bounce potentially happening, and you can see even on the candlestick here that ended the day, it's a lot of buying pressure. Again, green Marubozu candlestick. So that indicates that our bottom may be temporarily in for now. So we'll need to see that. So we'll need to see what will happen on the following week. So again, a break of 601 with volume behind it. We can potentially look for a quick RSI bounce and potentially a quick flip to set that daily higher low and lower high in comparison to the high of 678 and the low of 498. So ending off with Hexo, so again, similar to the other names, we have our high set at 720, low at 505. We'll be again looking to set that daily higher low in comparison to 505, and essentially head towards back the upside of 720. We do have kind of a spinning top indecision candlestick here, so and it could potentially mean that we could have another leg down. So we'll want to look at the hourly chart really quickly to see what we can anticipate. So similar to some of these other names, again, we had two big gap down opens on Thursday and Friday. We set a low. Let me just get that here. We set a low at 620, and essentially we've set a daily lower high, an hourly lower high at basically double top here at 637 as our next hourly resistance level to look for. So in terms of what we can anticipate in the coming week, a break of 637 with volume behind it will head back towards the upside, with 657 being our next level of resistance, and then $7.20, $7 psychologically. As far as support is concerned, a break to the downside with bearish momentum. We'll look for support again at 620, 588, and the next clear level to look for is 557. So when we look at it on the weekly, again, similar to the other names, we're in our weekly range right now with our low and high set so far. So again, looking for that daily higher low to be set comparison to 505, potentially set a lower high, higher low, and then hopefully a higher high break to essentially reverse this weekly trend and head back towards our all-time highs. So that's about it. That covers our technical analysis for today. Hope you guys really enjoyed that. And if you did, please like, share, subscribe. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Have an awesome weekend. Enjoy the rest of the day, and see you in the next video.